Good evening. Welcome to City Council meeting for December 14th, 2021. We continue to be under guidelines from Governor Sisolak. Anyone in attendance must wear a face covering, whether they've been vaccinated or not. As always, we encourage you to get vaccinated so we can get this over with as soon as possible. Items listed on the agenda may be taken out of order. Two or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. I will call the meeting to order. The agenda has been properly posted. Members of council, with the exception of Councilmember Jorgensen, are present in chambers. We'll begin with the invocation. Pastor Graham, if you'd like to lead that. All rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge your divine sovereignty tonight. We humbly repent for our thoughts, attitudes, and actions which do not honor you. We pray for the families and friends who lost loved ones due to a massive tornado, Kentucky and other regions. So far, 88 lives lost. Lord, these kinds of natural disasters remind us of our own vulnerabilities in the face of climate change, pandemics, and other accidents. We ask for your protection and help. We ask for wisdom and courage. We pray for our town, its people, and its future. Bless this council, dear Lord, as we happily celebrate the holidays, when we remember peace, love, and joy in Jesus, our Savior, who was born on Christmas Day. Fill our hearts, O God, with all of these. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
All right.
We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again, Pastor Graham. We do have a couple of public announcements this evening. The first is this will be our last council meeting where we will start at 7 p.m. beginning on January 11th of 2022. All council meetings will begin at 5 p.m. And now for the important part. We have a retirement from our police department. Odie and Scott Pastor were the first and only duo for the BC Mounted Unit when it was formed in April of 2017. Since then, the unit has grown to 4 officers, 3 volunteers, and 5 horses. Odie served proudly throughout the valley, working all of the major events in Las Vegas and Boulder City, from New Year's Eve on the Strip to Life is Beautiful, Art in the Park, and downtown patrols and much more. He was an integral part of teaming up with the Las Vegas Metro Mounted Unit and served as the lead horse for many of the high-profile, high-risk tasks. Most of all, Odie was an ambassador and community bridge for the police department. He truly loves people and enjoys all the attention. I can attest to that. Odie is now 22 years old and suffers from Cushing's. It's harder for him to withstand the Southern Nevada heat in the summer because of this disease. Though he would continue to work because he has that type of horse, he has earned his retirement and his hoof boots will be hard to fill. Odie was every bit of a partner, a service animal, and a representative of the Boulder City Police Department. And I believe we are going to have an appearance, if it can be managed. How about a round of applause for Odie? And again, thank you to Sergeant Pastor and all the people on the mounted unit. It's volunteers that make that happen. They work with the rodeo club here in Boulder City as well. It's going to be hard to see a horse like that go. He certainly was a valued partner of the police department. Thank you all for coming, and again, we look forward to the other horses that will be out there. Thank you. All right, we'll move to our first public comment period. As stated in the agenda for this meeting, public comment may have been submitted via written comment, via email prior to the meeting. We'll begin with anyone in chambers. Is there anyone present that would like to speak in the initial public comment period? Each person will have up to 5 minutes to speak. Items must be on the agenda. If you'd like to come forward, please state your name.
Hi, my name is Svetlana Stefanova. I am a Boulder City resident and also the executive director of the Damn Short Film Festival. And I'd like to voice my support of the approval of agenda item number 6. And this is Holly Lay. She is our grants coordinator. The Damn Short Film Festival's commitment to cultivating the best possible experience for our filmmakers, audience, volunteers, and local community has helped make us a cultural institution that drives business to our local economy. We're ranked as one of the top 100 best reviewed film festivals in the world, putting us in the top 1% of over 12,000 film festivals and contests on Film Freeway, which is the world's leading festival submission website. This is all based on filmmaker reviews of our festival. DSFF was voted the 2020 Bronze Best Arts and Cultural Event for the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Best of Las Vegas Awards, and was named Best Local Film Festival in Desert Companion Magazine 2019 Best of the City Awards issue. This last festival season, we had 162 short films grouped by genre and theme into 26 programs. And we worked really hard to follow the request of council to make sure that since we were virtual, we live streamed from BC and really kept Boulder City front and center in all of our marketing materials and press interviews. And we had 25 live stream events, including an opening ceremony that was throughout Boulder City, different businesses. And then we had filmmaker Q&A sessions and an award ceremony accessible anywhere in the world. And they're still available for free right now on our YouTube page and our 2021 virtual festival catalog on Inventive. The in-depth conversations that were sparked through the filmmaker Q&As were really incredible. And when it's in the theater, we only get about 5 to 15 minutes after the program with the filmmakers. While when we were able to do it virtually, we did about 45-minute sessions for each program. And the filmmakers were able to tune in from anywhere in the world. And then we had over 6,300 virtual viewers that tuned in to the festival in February with a total watch time of 2,327 years and 10 months. It's kind of hard to grapple that. But so our board of directors has decided to take the 2022 festival online once again. As much as we would love to be in the theater this February, many factors made it not a viable option for us this year. We plan to be back in the theater in 2023, but fortunately we received so much positive feedback on the virtual experience last season, and we're excited to be able to stay true to our mission, making original, unusual, and entertaining short films available to the general public for the 18th annual festival, February 10th through the 14th. And I also have a bunch of more stats that I can read later on when the item is up. But yeah, we're here to answer any questions when the item is up. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in the initial public comment period? Judge Miller?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'd like to speak regarding item number
9. When I got a copy of the agenda, I was thrilled to learn that Dr. Bob and Lori Merrill will be recipients of the Bill Andrews Award. And I know that they have numerous services that they provide to the city, but I would like to mention in our court, in our Breaking the Cycle program, they've been invaluable in their support of our participants, and literally they are there every time, and they follow up, and they know more about the participants that have graduated than I do. We were just talking about some wonderful things that alumni of the program are doing that Lori Merrill's kept track of and is supportive of that. I'm just thrilled that they are being recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, we will take calls. Anyone wishing to call for public comment? This is our initial public comment period. Phone number 702-589-9629.
Public comment.
Yes, I'd like to make public comment. This is Judy DeShane, and I would like to see item 7 on giving a free holiday as a Christmas bonus. I'd like to see it off of the consent agenda and move to the regular agenda. I am very much against this practice, and I think it's atrocious that the prior city staff allowed this without it coming before the public. I really think this needs to be public. If you are working for a private business, you do not get these types of perks by any means. And I believe when I saw the salary ranges, full-time employees, I don't believe there was anyone that was making less than $20 an hour. So that means it's a $200 bonus for each employee, and that, plus their whatever perks. They get a free day off. I know staff is going to hate me, and the police and fire department will refuse to respond probably after this, but that's beside the point. It just seems like it's overkill and way too much for our small community here. The other item was item number 12. It has to do with the land development or not land development, but the BLM possibly selling things or more land to be developed. And it does mention in the packet that this is something that's in the Senate right now. Could the city give us the bill number and more specifics? And maybe we could encourage residents to write to our Congress people, our senators, as well as our representative, and have them put a kibosh on this, if at all possible, because we have a severe water shortage here in Boulder City and the entire Las Vegas Valley, and we definitely do not need to be expanding with more development in our valley at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. The phone line is now available. Anyone wishing to call for the initial public comment, phone number is 702-589-9629. Madam City Clerk, were there any email comments received?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
The first one's from Bethany Caruso. With regard to annexing the proposed land to the city of Henderson, I would like to request that the council deny the annexation. This is a decision not to be taken lightly, and we cannot be reversed once the land has been reassigned. We have an obligation to future generations to preserve and protect this beautiful city. Raw land is a resource the founders of Boulder City and generations that have come after know the value of. You can put a price on anything, but this is something that we should continue to claim as priceless. There is nothing man could build that would replace the feeling a person gets when they watch the sunset over the mountains or the rainstorms that pass over the valleys. Please don't give away the awe-inspiring landscape that surrounds Boulder City, especially during COVID, where the residents of Boulder City aren't allowed to be at council meetings in person. I propose to deny the annexation and table the conversation until such a time when it can be clearly discussed and correctly voted on by the residents of Boulder City, possibly even a question in the upcoming election. Thank you. Next comment is from Marcy Christie. The Damn Short Film Festival is crucial to support because it brings a beautiful creative community together in the art of film. For years and years, so many writers and directors and actors and crew come together to tell their stories in a moving visual art form, and it's only fitting that Boulder City can help facilitate this in storytelling. Boulder City is full of history and built with creative minds living their dreams, and the Damn Short Film Festival is a perfectly safe space for other dreamers to do the same. The people who run the Damn Short Film Festival, especially Sedlina, would work incredibly hard to be sure that all people are welcome and that Boulder City is the place to feel free in the creative spirit, especially in the form of film. Having been a forever lifelong audience member to films, I hope you find the inspiration to support all the artists who bring these events together, and I'd love to see more continued support for events like this so I can attend and bring my children to attend in the future as well. Dear Boulder City Council members, I have been associated with the Damn Short Film Festival as a volunteer from its inception. It is well and responsibly run, and I feel it is valuable. It is a valuable asset to Boulder City, bringing international recognition to our town. I am in support of this event, receiving the special event promotion grant being requested. Thank you for your consideration. Isla Crowley, Boulder City resident. I sincerely hope the City Council will grant the Damn Short Film Festival $5,000 to promote this year's festival. Over the past 17 years, we have seen the wide reach of the festival's influence in our community and far beyond. For 16 years, we saw the festival grow into overflowing restaurants, our local theater, and hotels with attendees coming even from Europe. Last year's Needs to Be Online event was different, but the festival reached even broader audiences. More exposure for the arts of Boulder City. It is important to let it be known that our small community can support such an event. Some of the films shown at the Damn Short Film Festival have been nominated for Oscars and are currently being shown on major airlines' entertainment platforms. Help spread the word for the event and our town. Approve this grant request. Respectfully, Carol Jeffries, Boulder City resident. Next comment was provided by Ann Kellogg. Support, please pass the grant for the Damn Short Film Festival. It is a Nevada treasure. Thank you so much, Ann Kellogg. Next comment is from Valerie McNay regarding Agenda 12B, or 12A and 12B. I approve the Resolution 7375 opposing the expansion of land for disposal in the El Dorado Valley Southern Nevada Lands Bill pending in the U.S. Congress. The thousands of acres of federal land in the Sloan Canyon area should not be released for development. I believe this land should remain open and accessible for recreation, conservation, and wildlife protection. I urge the Boulder City Council members to voice concerns to our congressional representatives and seek input from Boulder City residents. I approve Resolution 7376, opposing the annexation of land in the El Dorado Valley by the City of Henderson. The City of Henderson appears determined to spread across railroad paths to develop land in the El Dorado Valley. I urge our council members to protect the El Dorado Valley lands for recreation and conservation and solicit the views of our Boulder City citizens. Maybe these resolutions should be put on a ballot for the residents to vote on. Respectfully submitted, Dr. Valerie J. McNay. Next comment is from Elizabeth Powell. I am a 30-year resident of Boulder City and rental property owner. I wholeheartedly support Resolutions 7375 and 7376 opposing the disposal of land in El Dorado Valley adjacent to Boulder City, annexation of that land by the City of Henderson. Southern Nevada is in a water crisis. There is not enough water to go around for all of us and will not be for potentially 30 years to come. The amount of money that potentially be put into resolving the water crisis is minimal and will not resolve at any time soon. Southern Nevada cannot support more housing and more water users. This disposal and annexation does no one any good, certainly not Boulder City. One of the beautiful things about Boulder City is that it is not in the Las Vegas Valley and it is surrounded by mountains and open desert. I am a botanist. What do desert plants do when they are in a drought? They stop growing first. All available water is used for survival only, and then as the drought deepens, they start drooping ramets. That is, they let side shoots and non-essential parts of the plant die that use too much water. This allows the main shoot to survive a little longer. Letting Henderson expand is exactly what will hasten our death. Please vote to support these resolutions. Why would we want the city to come to us? We live here because it is not the city. Furthermore, we will never get out of our water crisis and will only make it worse for Boulder City if we allow larger cities to expand at our expense. Thank you. Final public comment is from Sherry Jorgensen. City Council, I'm writing in regard to items 12A and 12B on the regular agenda. I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting because of my youngest daughter, Aubrey, who has Down syndrome, graduating from UNLV. I am sure you can imagine how momentous this is for us, considering we never thought it would be an option for her to attend college, let alone walk at graduation. I would like to see 12A and 12B moved to the first City Council meeting in January. This would give us, as a complete council, a chance to discuss these two items. These are critical matters for the future of our city that deserve discussion by our full council. Thank you, Councilwoman Sherry Jorgensen. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Again, anyone wishing to speak in our initial public comment period? Please state your name.
My name is Robert Merrill, and I'm here with my wife, Lori. And I would say that we have benefited from the Boulder Dam Film Festival for almost every year that it's been in existence, and it's just grown in stature and has benefited our community. And I would just lend our support for the grant that's before you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, hearing no others, we will close the public comment period. Move for the approval of agendas, approval of the regular agenda. Madam City Clerk?
No changes.
Madam City Attorney?
No changes.
And Mr. City Manager?
No changes.
Thank you. Council, any changes for the regular agenda? Councilmember Bridges?
Yes, I move to postpone item number 12 to the next regular meeting on January 11th, 2022, and approve the regular agenda as amended.
Any other comments? I disagree with moving these items. This is something that there are essential timelines that are in place. Delaying this for another month is not in the interest of this city. I would vote no on, are you making a motion then?
Yes.
Is there anyone wishing to second that motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Tie vote, motion fails. Any other changes for the regular agenda? I move them for approval of the agenda as noted.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. Nay.
So I guess we don't have an agenda this evening. Madam City Attorney?
Yes, in order to approve the regular agenda, the motion would have to pass with 3 votes in the majority to approve the regular agenda.
So we have a 2-2 tie.
Someone who voted in favor may move for reconsideration.
I
Or
will
voted in the, would it be, who would? There would be a necessary for a whole new motion, I think.
I'm sorry, what?
We would need a whole new motion to approve the regular agenda.
All right, again, as I've stated, I believe that these items are essential to be considered at this time. I will again move for approval of the regular agenda as posted.
I'll second, and I'd also like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
I absolutely understand the desire to have the entire council here to speak on this matter. We can certainly discuss this matter tonight. We can take action tonight, and we can still discuss this matter at the beginning of January with the full council. There's nothing that prevents us from discussing this further with the entire council here. But I believe that as the mayor has pointed out, that yes, time is of the essence with these matters, and so if we are going to take action, I think we should do it now as opposed to later.
Any other comments regarding the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will go forward as posted for the regular agenda. Move to consideration of the consent agenda. Madam City Clerk, any changes?
No changes.
Madam City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor and City Council, I request that item 6 be moved to the regular agenda for purposes of disclosure.
Mr. City Manager?
No further changes.
Council, any additional changes for the consent agenda?
No?
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda with the movement of item number 6 to the regular agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we will then move to item number 6.
Our Community Development Director, Michael Mays, will be handling this grant request.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. As part of your fiscal year 22 budget, you approved $34,000 for the Special Events Event Grant Program. This is to subsidize nonprofit organizations that hold events within the community and help to promote the community to people outside of the community. The Damn Short Film Society is seeking a $5,000 grant. If approved by the council, there would remain $23,000 in funds within this fiscal year for other grant opportunities. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to state that pursuant to NRS, I would like to disclose to you and the public that my spouse, Svetlana Stefanova, serves as the Executive Director of the Damn Short Film Festival. This item confers benefits on the Damn Short Film Festival by providing it with a funding grant. Because my spouse has obligations to the organization's financial interest, I must advise the public of this relationship and disclose that I have a commitment in a private capacity to the interests of my spouse, and that includes her services as Executive Director of the Damn Short Film Festival. Due to this relationship, I have been advised by our city attorney to abstain from participation in voting on this item. I would also ask that the city clerk be sure that my disclosure and abstention is reflected in the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think it's a fine event. I will be happy to move for approval of resolution number 7373.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Mr. Mays. Item number 8, I believe, yes. Dr. Jaskowski with the Clark County School District.
Hi, good evening. Deanna Jaskolski. I proudly serve as the Region 3 Superintendent for the Clark County School District. Mayor McManus, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I do have some updates in regards to capital improvements for Boulder City, as well as some highlights of our 4 remarkable schools and their leaders here in Boulder City, and then we'll be very happy to take any questions that you may have. As you may be aware of our 2015 capital improvement program in the Clark County School District was approved on December 4th for the revision 5, which was included in the revision 5 was to build a school and live-in site at St. Jude's Ranch for our teens that are traffic victims. And so I'm happy to report that that has been approved for $5 million. We're currently working on the MOA with St. Jude's Ranch to build this school and facility to support our teens that are trafficking victims. We're working with the MOA, and when I have an update in terms of construction schedule and opening date, I will provide that information to you as soon as I receive that. The second piece of that, what was proposed in Revision 5 was also a K-8 school here in Boulder City. We had met with our, when I say we, it was myself and Jeff Wagner, who's the Chief of Facilities for the Clark County School District, met with the 2 elementary school principals, as well as Ms. Tiemont from Garrett Middle School was able to join us as well, because the proposal was K-8, taking a look at potential rebuilds and taking a look at maximizing the resources that we have in regards to our dollars and facilities. So we did meet with those 3 principals. And then there were community meetings that were held in regards to this proposal. At those community meetings, it was heard very loud and clear that the community would like to have more input and more detail and input on any potential change to the remarkable schools here in Boulder City. So that was pulled from Revision 5, did not move forward based on that public comment and feedback, and that will be brought forward in Revision 6 of the 2015 Capital Improvement Program, which will be in a year. When that does happen, I am committed to bring that information here to the council. I know that was a large concern, and understandably so, that the council was not made aware of any potential proposals in regards to the K-8 school here. And so again, it was removed and will be brought back for Revision 6. But when it is brought back, it will be brought back with the community input as opposed to just the proposal moving forward. So we will do that. It's usually around October-ish, November-ish of next school year for that. So I'll stop there if you have any questions there, and I do have some school celebrations that I'd like to share.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Bridges?
Yeah, I was talking to the director over at St. Jude's over the weekend for their night, during the Night of the Lights, and I was so excited to hear about the school. Now, is this going to be junior high, high school? She said it seemed to be some sort of hybrid school of, however the age is, and as one as young as 11. And that, I know.
Yeah, we're working.
Very disturbing, but yeah. I wanted to get a better understanding of the school itself.
Yeah, Councilmember Bridges, thank you for the question. And I don't have a specific answer to that, and I don't because we're working very closely with St. Jude's to meet their needs of our children that have unfortunately been victims of trafficking. So yes, we want to serve all of our children that are a part of that, and in particular our teens. So.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? I too want to congratulate CCSD on working with St. Jude's. It's going to be a challenge for sure. There is no other facility like that in Clark County. Certainly those are children that need special attention. And again, CCSD reaching out, I know Dr. Jara had made that one of his goals was to reach out to them and help with that. So my thanks to CCSD for that. With regard to the K-8 consolidation here, we had been asked, the council had been asked, I had been asked to do a community meeting early on before the school year, just before the school year started. There was no indication at that time that there were plans with that facility change. The feedback that I've received from the community is nobody knew what that was all about until it showed up on an agenda item. I think you have probably heard from the community that that was not a change that was handled well by CCSD. We do take a lot of pride in our schools here in Boulder City, and when we talk about making changes like that, it upsets people. So certainly some better information out to the community. And that's a great thing. I understand that this would be the first of its kind also in Clark County. But if a change like that's going to be made, certainly we need buy-in from the community that that's a desired change and not just an experiment on Boulder City.
Thank you, Mayor McManus. That point is very well taken, and I commit that I will be bringing that information forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bridges?
Yeah, I have one other comment, and I don't know how appropriate it is at this. I've understood that I believe it's the junior high school, wanted to put in a window so that they could look out over the buses. And it was given back to them as their responsibility to put into the window, and they came to, in fact, approached a social service organization in order to get funding to put in that window. And what I'd like to understand is why wouldn't that be covered under the infrastructure budget of the school district? I know it's not a huge deal. It's not building a new school. It's not taking down wall, but it's increasing the safety of the students. So that's sort of a comment and question all in one.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate it, Councilmember Bridges, and I will look into that. I don't have information on that particular request, but I will look into that and get that information to you.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Anyone else?
Just to clarify, you said that you had more for your presentation to continue?
I just have a couple school highlights from our 4 schools that I want to share since I'm here. We want to celebrate our schools, so I just have a few of those.
Okay, I'll just go ahead then and ask my question now,
Please.
and then that way I don't have to muddy that up. So just curious, obviously, we've now asked, teachers and students to return, during a pandemic. What policies are in place currently, should a teacher or student test positive for COVID-19?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Adams. So we have a health services department in the Clark County School District. We have employee health nurses as well as our nurses at the school. We have set up a hotline for our families to call in to let the school know, to let the nurses know. They then take all of the pertinent information, exposure, test dates, what type of test, and then provide that family with the information, whether they're quarantined, whether they can attend a school, what is the days that they're able to return with a test, without a test. It is truly a case-by-case situation. So that's for our families. They have a number that they're able to call and speak directly with the nurse to get that information. With our faculty and our educators, as well as our administrators, we have what's called a MOCA. It's an app, or you can log into the computer, and we are required daily to monitor our symptoms. So we have to put those into the system. If there are symptoms that flag for potential COVID symptoms or a COVID exposure, that's one of the questions. It gives you a phone number that you need to call, and again, it's a nurse within the Clark County School District that asks all the pertinent questions in regards to vaccine status, in regards to exposure, what type of symptoms you may be exhibiting, and then provides information moving forward in regards to if that teacher then has to quarantine, or administrator or employee in the Clark County School District. If it's an educator, then that information is very quickly given to the principal at the school site. The principal then is made aware, take a look at their seating chart, because we have put in play very strict guidelines in regards to seating charts. So we're aware of who's within, the feet guidance of one another, and then who may potentially would have to quarantine from there. And then the school level principal would then let any staff members that were a close contact, or any students that were a close contact that would need to quarantine. And that is very, again, on a case-by-case basis, as where symptoms appear, positive tests appear at different times and rates. But we work very closely and immediately with the school level leaders or the department leaders, whomever the case may be, and working with them to ensure that that person that needs to be quarantined is quarantined and has the specific information of when they are able to return and what dates they can return by.
And then, should they test positive for COVID-19, or otherwise they haven't tested yet, the symptoms otherwise would lead them to not be able to attend the class, or to teach their class, I should say. Would that be used then against their sick days? And then if they're using their sick days, is that then penalized against their personal days the following year?
No, thank you for that question. If they are able to work from home, so if their symptoms allow them, that's probably, if they feel well enough, let me put it that way, if they feel well enough to be able to work from home, then they're able to work from home. So whether it be working with a substitute in the class, we've had teachers that are able to do Google Meets, from their home, and then have a guest teacher in the classroom facilitating while the teacher's, teaching from home. If the teacher is not well enough to be able to, and then they are taking leave because they are not well enough to teach.
And that would trigger, losing of personal days the following year?
Right, because they have to, the certain amount of sick days to not take to be able to achieve personal days. Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I do, just a comment, we are in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not sure we should be penalizing people, especially our teachers during this time. So I would hopefully, would like to see that the school district look at maybe changing some policies that we're not penalizing our teachers who are trying to keep staff, their students, faculty safe during this time. So that's just a comment from me.
Thank you.
I appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's hear the good news.
All right, so just a few celebrations. So at Mitchell Elementary School, Mr. Ben Day is proud to say that 80% of their students were proficient in the English Language Arts MAP assessment, and that 77 were proficient in the fall MAP assessment for math. And they have seen tremendous growth as well between the fall and the winter that they're excited to see. Each of their students, as I'm sure you're aware, in terms of the leader in me, if you've seen Mr. Day's, which I'm sure you have, his license plate as well, just the students taking ownership in each of the classrooms, and that they have their leadership notebooks that that the students track their own progress, which is so remarkable at any age from first grade up till fifth grade, that the students know exactly where they are in class. At King, at Martha P. King Elementary School, they are just so thankful in help and coordination with the Boulder City Parks and Rec, who allowed to use their facilities for this last Saturday's first annual Breakfast with Santa. They were so very happy with the turnout for that. And then in October, they'd like to express their thanks as well for closing Avenue B for the students and families to be able to safely walk from both schools without the concern of vehicle traffic for their Halloween Spooktacular that was very well attended. So thank you very much for your support in that. Garrett Junior High School was awarded $25,000 from the governor's office for science, innovation, and technology for STEM teaching for their school. They're going to continue to build their STEM labs, 3D printers, coding robots, and professional learning for the teachers to be able to move forward. They have an intermediate STEM class for their students to choose in an elective, and they're hoping to schedule 7 or 8 classes. So going from nothing to that, and the opportunities for their middle school is just completely remarkable. And then at our Boulder City High School, just to walk the hallways and see the excitement in all of our schools and in our high school students to be back and completely engaged in the work. And if you haven't had the opportunity to walk the building, of course, following Ms. Wagner on Twitter, you can see every day what's the wonderful things that are happening in Boulder City High School there. And that we know
that their boys tennis team won the 3A state championship, boys cross country with 3A state championship, girls volleyball was one of the top 4 teams, and the girls soccer team one of the top 4 teams. And I neglected to say for Garrett Junior High School, my apologies, that the inaugural flag football season this year was a huge success. So,
We always like to hear the good news.
well, thank you for the opportunity to share the good news as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for the request, and I will follow back up with that information.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
All right, we'll move to item number 9, presentation of the Bill Andrews Award. Again, as been noted earlier, Dr. Robert and Ms. Lori Merrill have been selected. If you'd like to come up, I have the rather weighty award to give to you. I think we could have all the council members come out. Again, this is the Bill Andrews Award. Again, it's a little heavy. This is an annual award that's given out to members of the community that have shown special diligence over a long period of time, that have benefited the community. Again, my congratulations for it. If there's anything you'd like to say.
We were fortunate enough to know Bill Andrews, and we're friends with him. We're in his unique home and saw many of his unique antiques, and know his character and how he loved this city, put it on a trajectory to where we are today with his wise counsel and decisions, and we certainly are humbled and honored. I have been a Boulder City citizen for 32 years. But my wife and her family and our daughter are 4th generation Boulder City citizens, and so we're very proud to and honored and humbled to accept this as we love this community as well. And I'll let you say something if you like.
My grandpa came out 90 years ago to be a high scaler on the dam. And our roots are deep. My mom was born in a little house on Hopi. She won't mind me saying 85 years ago. Vita Cox, and everybody loves her. But this city has given my family so much. Where could a poor farm boy with a 4th grade education come out, and he actually signed the petition in 1960 to incorporate Boulder City. We walked in, I saw his picture on the wall. He was a mayor here a couple of times. So our family did well with business here, and we're so grateful to the city. I feel like we're in our golden age. I don't know where else you want to live. This is just amazing. I told my buddy Doug over there the other night that this is better than a Hallmark movie at Christmas. We love Boulder City.
Thank you. And again, you well know Bill Andrews, why this award is given out. Congratulations, and appreciate all that you do for our community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. All right, thanks again. Congratulations to them. They've done a great deal for this community. Item number 10, introduction of Bill number 1910, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, repealing Boulder City Code, section regarding noise. This is a bill introduction, so I will introduce Bill number 1910, waive the reading except for title.
Bill number 1910, an ordinance of the City of Boulder City, Nevada, repealing Boulder City Code, Title 7, Chapter 1, Section 11, noise loud and unnecessary, and Boulder City Code Title 7, Chapter 1, Section 19, public noise from portable, motor vehicle, or any other audio equipment in its entirety, and creating a new Title 7, Chapter 6, known and may be cited as the Boulder City Noise Ordinance. Bill number 1910 will be considered at the January 11th, 2022 regular meeting at 5 p.m.
Thank you. Item number 11 for possible action, discussion and staff directive regarding the Utility Advisory Committee Capital Improvement Plan report and the additional removal of projects from the Capital Improvement Plan. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Keegan Littrell, our Public Works Director and Acting Utilities Director, will be providing the kickoff to the presentation tonight. And I do just want to mention that this is not the final approval. That will occur towards May when we approve the final budget. So I'll go ahead and turn this over to Keegan.
Thank you, Mr. Tedder. Keegan Littrell, Public Works Director, for the record. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just wanted to give a brief intro about our CIP. We've had one workshop so far and one formal agenda item for this. This is the second time, and we'll be presenting the major changes since the previous meeting. Before I start my slideshow, I would like to bring up the Utility Advisory Committee Chair, Mr. Larry Carr. He would like to hit some of the highlights that we've discussed in the UAC, their recommendations that they're would like to put forward, and then I'll jump into the presentation after that. So.
Thank you. Mr. Carr?
Good evening. So appreciate the opportunity. So I guess thought I would just go over quickly the intent of the report and sort of the outline. So the intent was to provide comment and recommendations for the background for the information relating to the 5-year Cip plan using the best information we have been given. So the ongoing was provided with the report also, just to provide information to how future projects might be impacted with the volume of the ongoing projects. So on the first page, we brought out just recommendations, and so the utility recommendation is that council does approve the tentative fiscal year 23 budget for the Cip. And then as you see there, as the fiscal year 23 budget evolves, then I believe the staff and the committee will both be reviewing it. And if any necessary changes are needed, then that will be reviewed and modified. And that will also include the 5-year plan. So if any things are moved or whatever as we go forward. One of the big things that happened just in the last couple of months, or actually the last month I guess it really was that the electrical design consultant was a statement of qualifications was approved for them. And so it looks like we're going to have additional help for the design work. And as if you had a chance to look at the report, you saw that there were quite a few of the reports, or I should say the projects, that were in design and are in design, or need to be in design, I should say. And so with this extra additional help, then a lot of the ongoing projects should be able to be designed and also then hopefully put it into require any required equipment, and then also get that much closer to construction. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems we were foreseeing as a committee was whether we could get the ongoing done. As you see in the report, that was one of our concerns. So, so hopefully this will help the bottleneck and be able to move things forward a lot easier. So the other thing we've also stated in the comment is that we agree that these projects are needed, and that it is to go forward to modernize, improve reliability, decrease system losses, and help prepare for future load requirements for all the electrical, water, and sewer. These are needed. We also believe that it is important to purchase the equipment as soon as possible. And so I believe possibly in January, it's going to be presented to purchase 6 transformers in fiscal year 22. So the need for the early equipment purchase is to help with the supply problems, increasing costs, and also some of the lead time. Some of these big transformers can take up to 18 months. And so we've got, as you see in the Cip programs, that you've got, anything that's gonna be done in 24, we've got to get the transformer for that. We've got it done in 25 and 26. But also we want to buy all 6 transformers, if possible, at the same time for uniformity. It would be helpful for the city to do that. As far as the overall impact for fiscal year 23 and the outgoing, the UC understands that there's discussion on new water system treatment plant. And so if that treatment plant does go into, is built, then some of the sewer projects might not be needed. So that just keep that into effect. So even though we're approving those items, they might not be needed in the future. And that can be resolved once that's done. Another issue is that the additional funds for the voter-approved funding for the CIP only goes through fiscal year 23. So as of 24, there will be no additional funding to help offset some of the Cip programs for all the utilities. So the utility group would hopefully hope that additional funding would be reviewed for that. So again, as you go through, you'll just see that you've got the ongoing projects with a very brief where they're at and what's needed for the ongoing. The fiscal year 23 is a little more overall supplied information. And then you'll see that we've tried to put into what is needed, if it's going to be design work for that year, if it's going to be equipment, or if it's going to be construction. But you have more information in the fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24 and 25, gives more of an overview of what is happening and what the projects are. And then just to help clarify on the electoral aspect, you'll see that there's $4 million total, $2 million for the substation and for substation 4 and $2 million for substation 5. That's being requested for in fiscal year 22. But if you look in fiscal year 23 and try to add those numbers up, you wouldn't get what was in the actual numbers. So I just wanted to help clarify that on page 4 of your documentation. If you looked at, so it starts on page 3, the preliminary 23 preliminary request for the electrical aspect, that 1 through 7, if you add in the $2 million for fiscal year 22 and $2 million for fiscal year 20 for the substation 4 and substation 5, it doesn't add up. So just making sure that, because when I first glanced at it, I forgot to look at the 22 also. Just make sure you see that's part of 22 and not 23, so that make sure all the numbers match. Okay, is there anything I can help with? Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
I'd just like to thank the UAC and staff and everybody who've been working together on this. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate it. A lot of it certainly goes over my head, and so it's good to have those discussions that I can hear and can start to put it together in my head on what it is that we're doing. So it's very much appreciated.
This was a good team effort with the staff and the committee, and I want to thank the staff also for all the support they give us in the report.
Councilmember Bridges?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, me too. I thought writing it out as it is as opposed to looking at columns of numbers. Part of it makes it a lot easier, and part of that makes it a little bit more complex. And I think it's important for anybody who's looking at this and gets confused with the number that we are currently in fiscal year 22.
Correct.
Right, so these were decisions already made. So 23 starts next July.
July, correct.
Okay. I also want to say I see little implications that There might be some point a new treatment plant built, that we might have some infrastructure to deal with our effluent. And whether funding for that comes from SNWA or from our capital improvement or ARPA, whatever it is that would pay for that. I wish there had been more addressed on that. That someone might look at this and see that some point in the next 5 years that we're going to address head on what we're going to do in the long term about our wastewater. I know we sell it. I know that there was no appetite for the original offer by SNWA. We talk about building an infrastructure that takes that water, treats it again, and we will eventually be able to water our golf courses with it. So I'd like to know how in the future do we integrate that vision into a document like that? Because you know, it's going to be 4 years from now, and it's like, oh, maybe we should put that in there now. So I'd like to know how we do that, because, you know, yes, right now we get, I think 60% of the water is being sold, but down the line there's going to be, and we have a water reservoir out there that's shrinking. So to me, it's, I know it. I hammer it every time I have an opportunity, but I think it's really important to put that in there, not just as a suggestion if.
Well, I think, and I'll try to answer it first and then make sure I don't, but my understanding is the reason I stated it in my comments is that it's being discussed. And so right now, SNWA and the city staff or whoever is discussing a new plant or how to best work with the treatment plant. And so there's not new information to go in this report. Does that answer your question?
I just wish there was, you know, if somebody reads this a year from now, or, you know, somebody else comes along and looks at that and says, gee, you know, we still haven't addressed it head on.
But again, that's, as we evolve with this, then there's more information.
Then there's more down the road that gets added.
If something comes up with SNWA, then by May, as I heard earlier, would be more or less, since this is tentative, then May hopefully would have a better idea and of what the treatment plant, or at least saying going into the fiscal year 24, then what's happening. But
I'll remind you in May.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think in regards to that too, you know, that came out of a recommendation that I had made to staff, rather than doing the retrieval line that SNWA had been discussing for the past couple of years. And so if we're behind on that project, that's the reason why, is because SNWA was looking at it from a different direction. You know, I know that was something that was occurring while you were on that board, but you know, we have another direction and we still don't have a final decision from SNWA as far as what they're going to do. And until they decide that, we're going to have a hard time deciding how to apply any available American Rescue Plan money to that project as well. But it certainly is at the forefront of discussion, I'm sure. Councilmember Adams?
I'll just point out that, you know, as a member of the Southern Nevada Water Authority right now, I would hope that shortly, it seems to be promising, the conversations that we are having, and things do seem to be going in a positive direction. Obviously, we can't put in something that we don't have the actual answer for right now. Nothing has been signed, nothing has been agreed to just yet, but those conversations are very promising, and that I do believe we are advancing at a everybody, of course we want it as soon as possible, but I believe that the conversations are going at an appropriate, in an appropriate way.
Thank you. And also in regard to that, there is another project, and from what I understand, regardless of whether the wastewater plant will be upgraded, something I mentioned in my briefings is there's a project for, I believe it's called the Headworks, but with that plant, we have received funding or will receive funding from Congress for much of that work. That also probably needs to be added on to the capital improvement project list. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Carr? Again, I appreciate, I think over these past several months, there's been a lot of progress made. I know Ms. Lellis has been doing a lot of work trying to get projects assigned, money assigned, all of that stuff to make things a little more apparent. Mr. Littrell has been doing double duty, and I believe it's already been announced that we will have a new utility director, so Mr. Littrell may get a little time back in his life as a result of that. But the committee itself, again, I thank all the members of that committee. All of them are contributing a great deal of life experience and knowledge. It's going to make this community better. It has been doing that. So thank you for all those efforts.
Thank you. Before I jump into this, I just wanted to add on to what you guys were discussing. I was apprehensive on adding anything for a new treatment plant or the headworks that you were talking about, Mayor, until we have a contractor or a local in our hands, knowing that we're actually going to move forward with the project. City manager and I have been in close contact with SNWA. Things are moving forward, as you were saying, Mr. Adams. And once that does happen, then I plan on making changes and presenting them to you. As for the headworks, that was a FY22 project, maybe even 21. It was a headworks upgrade, and if we get the $1 million that we applied for, then that would go towards that project. So, like I said earlier, this is our third meeting for the capital improvement plan. Only the second time actually taking action. The first one was just a workshop. To reiterate what the CIP is, it's a multi-year planning tool used by the city to program projects and coordinate the financing and timing of them. CIP funding is annually appropriated, meaning we're only approving 1 year at a time, but we do provide a 5-year plan. And then to be a CIP project, it needs to be $25,000 and have a life expectancy of 5 years. Something that we're real careful of every year is making sure that we continue to save or continue to have the required fund balance, that's 16.67. And every year we move somewhere around 10% of our expenditures. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. And then the utility projects are separate because it's outside the general fund. They match up with the available funds. Some of the sustainable funding that Mr. Carr was talking about is these voter-approved funds. We have 4 of them, and as he had stated, one of them will be expiring in FY23. And then some of our non-general fund sources, you see there, airport, the capital improvement fund, the voter approved, cemetery, FAA. We have the surcharges for the golf course, RDA, the regional flood control, and RTC are both very big ones for us. And then we have the utility enterprise fund, which has the 4 sub-accounts. I'm not sure the correct way to say it, but as we were talking about in your briefing yesterday, Mayor, the utility fund is one large fund when we report it to the state, but we have broken it out into 4 separate accounts for accounting purposes. Here you'll see the capital cost by department for the full 5 years, totaling almost $90 million. And then this is just for FY23 at $23 million. I want to mention that there is no fire projects for FY23. the fire department that was being discussed has been pushed to FY '24. We had some concerns with the upcoming O&M budget and felt we'd be a lot more comfortable by moving that out 1 year. And then after we discuss the O&M, if it comes to find out that we do have the funding there, we can discuss moving that back or leaving it where it is. But we'll talk about that this spring. Funding sources for the city. This is, I believe this is 2 pages. Yep, we got this broken out on 2 pages. And then it shows the percentages of what those funds are for the full 5 years. I do want to mention this Axionah solar project funding. That was a question that came up in our briefing yesterday. That was some funding that was given to the city back in like 2007, 2008 for renewable energy or a solar demonstration project. The shade structure that's over on the west side of North Escalante was constructed out of that in 2017. Yeah, 2017, 2018. And the remaining funds in there is that $184,000. I'm off a slide. There we go. This is one of the new slides that Mary, you were asking for. This shows the proposed, the end balances of each of these funds after the proposed CIP projects have been taken out. Like you see the second to bottom one, the multi-purpose revenue, that's the Axionah solar. We are proposing to put the money that's left over in there into building a new shade structure for the city, so that's why you're only seeing $310 left in there. So all of these are after those proposed projects. If all of those are approved, this is what would be left over in those. And continued over to this page. We don't have anything in for track 350 yet. Hopefully we'll have something here in the next few months after we get through an appraisal and get a contract signed. Now for the projects, I'll hit more of the highlights, but if you see something that you want me to stop and talk on, we can. There's no changes on the airport. That's the same as it was before. No changes on the public works for streets. Again, it's showing how much money of all of the streets projects that are coming from RTC, and then only $50,000 coming from the general fund. No changes for public works here. Again, no changes. And then this is the breakdown for all of those. You see $200,000 coming from CIP, flood controls providing $500,000. The ad valorem, we have $200,000, general fund 1.3, and then the solar project, that would be for, I'll go back, the parking cover there for $425, $184,000 would be coming from the solar project. Parks and Recreation, there's no changes from the last time we met. And again, the breakdown showing where all the funds are coming from to pay for those projects. No changes on the golf course. Was it the muni that we had to change on? Yeah. I know Mr. Hall, Parks and Rec Director, came forward with the lease to own for the golf carts, and that's where you'll see the funding right here. We're not going to receive the golf carts until after the fiscal year, so that's why you'll see the funding there, but that still shows that savings, that $400,000 savings we're doing by piggybacking off of the other contract. Police, there hasn't been any updates. Oh, no, there was updates. The $500,000 for the remodel of the police station, moving the dispatchers and rearranging some of it. That again is another project that got moved out to FY24. We'll talk about that this spring when we get through the O&M portion and figure out if we have the funding for that or if we just leave it in 24. Now for the electric, there has been quite a few changes for electric. I'll come to you guys in January asking for a pre-purchase of 6 transformers. We had the Raftellus rate model, finance ran that for us, and it does show that we have sufficient funding to be able to pre-purchase those. The estimates we've been getting are just shy of $1 million per transformer. And from what we've been hearing, costs can go up from 20 to 30% a year. And also, as Mr. Carr was saying, the lead time on those are anywhere from 15 to 24 months. So if we were able, if you guys were to approve that when I come back in January, that's greatly going to help out with a multitude of things, mainly the cost, and getting those projects to move forward. We did move some of the funding forward on the substation rebuilds. This $2.15 million, $2 million is for additional equipment besides the transformers, and then $150,000 for design. We already have the project design, but it's 10 or 12 years old, so we'd like to dust that off, make sure we don't need any other upgrades on it. I believe $150,000 is way more than enough, but I wanted to err on the side of caution. And then I believe this one's a new project that was in there, the 3-phase commercial meters. We've gone through and upgraded most of the residential meters, but we would like to propose $225,000 for next year and the following year to continue with the commercial upgrades. For water, hasn't been any changes since the last time you guys saw it. But I do want to mention that we want to look into other funding sources for the utilities, since one of them is daylighting and we won't have that additional funding. We do have the ARPA funds that are available. We just need to finish putting our plan together so we can propose it to council so you guys can give us direction on that, on how we're going to spend the rescue funds. If we do that, you'll see less money coming out of the water fund, and then it would be coming out of the rescue fund, water or wastewater. Same thing for wastewater. There's no changes on there. As the UAC had for their disclaimer, if there is the treatment plant moving forward, then some of these projects won't need to move forward, like the chlorine contact chamber, and where's it at? The $75,000 for a shower. If we are going to move forward with a new treatment plant, we're going to try to figure out something that's more of a temporary or cheaper, just so the guys are still safe, but we know a new treatment plant will take a couple of years to build, so we want to do something in the interim. I thought there was one other project that would be put on hold. Oh, the concrete lined aeration basins. That one would also be put on hold if we're going to build a new treatment plant. So there is some substantial savings if we do build the new treatment plant.
Well, that depends on how much funding we get.
That's true.
Could be very expensive for us.
Yes. Well, our initial discussions with them is it sounds like they have the money to pay for the whole thing, in addition to providing a line up to the golf course or to Vets Park or both. So we're real hopeful. We're waiting to see what the legal, what it says when they get the legal, get their hands on it. So some next steps. After we go through any questions tonight, if there's not any substantial changes, I'd like to seek tentative approval. It helps out with finance with moving forward on their O&M. Then, as you guys all know, we'll do the final adoption at the end of the O&M in June. Or in May, sorry. And then if anybody in the public has any questions, we still monitor this CIP at bcnv.org email address. We've received a few emails there, but not very many. But I'd like to let everybody know that it's still there. So if you have any questions about any of our projects going on, past or present, shoot us an email or you can always give us a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilmember Bridges?
I had just one small question. I noticed the two that talked about turf removal. Do we get money from SNWA for turf removal?
It depends on how we do it. They have their stipulations on how you remove it, what do you got to replace it with.
Sure.
I've been in close contact with that group at SNWA. They have a head guy over the program, but then they also put me in contact with their field guy that would be happy to come out. We could show them what we're proposing, and then they'll work with us to make sure that we can get that rebate.
Yeah, it'd be great to see those numbers come down a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
Again, I'd just like to thank staff. A lot of work and time has been put into this. I appreciate the process. I agree with the changes that have been made. It's obviously a conservative approach to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row, as it were. And I think it's a smart, just a smart way to go about this. So I am comfortable with a tentative approval at this time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Fox?
Thank you for all you guys' hard work, and I just want to add in whatever you guys did at the intersection of Nevada Way and Buchanan to get that stench gone. Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
job.
I do want to say thanks for, I think, staff taking another look at the figures from the first go-round on this. There was an awful lot of stuff in that first one. I'm sure that whenever this comes around, it's the wish list. That was the wish list. This is probably more of the shopping list. I think that's important that we understand as we looked at those fund balances, many of them get depleted very quickly. So when we do projects, when we propose projects, that needs to be looked at. I think staff has taken another look at that and, push some projects out further into the future, but also gives us time to look at things. I can foresee this changing significantly just because of the things like the American Rescue Plan. We have several projects within the water and wastewater that could be impacted. That's what one of the allowed categories for expenditures from that. And if that were to occur, then clearly the projects that we would look at are going to change significantly. So I think that's important to keep in mind. There's also the infrastructure bill that has now been passed by Congress and signed into law. It took us months to figure out what was in the rescue plan. I'm sure it's going to take us months to figure out what's in that. There is money that will be going, I'm sure, to RTC, and that may help us with road projects and other transportation issues. I know I've been told that a lot of the money that has already gone to RTC is more on the transit side of things rather than the road building side of things. That's a good thing, no problem with that, but again, it changes how we need to look at how we may go forward with some of these projects. The swimming pool, again, it's been pointed out, that is still yet to be seen as far as what revenue we may have available for that project. I think too that we need to again go back and look at what were the recommendations for that project and be careful about how we begin that design of that. There is still stuff showing up for the pipeline to nowhere. I would really like to see that project get renamed to not the El Dorado water line, because there is an El Dorado water line that probably needs some work done on it, but not the pipeline to nowhere. I think there's been more than enough money spent on a project that's of no use. So I guess we need to make some motion then that we are in favor of the presentation of the projects that have been presented tonight.
I would appreciate it.
I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is that sufficient for the motion?
Yes.
Thank you. And again, Mr. Littrell, thank you. I'm sure you're looking forward to your buddy to start here, your compadre to start. Staff, Ms. Lellis, Ms. Mannanen, again, things are getting better. They're not perfect yet, but you're doing a great job, both of you, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That will bring us then to item number 12 for possible actions, matters pertaining to the proposed Southern Nevada Lands Bill and annexation of land in the El Dorado Valley by the City of Henderson. This is an item that I've requested. Again, obviously, during our discussion of the agendas, I want to make sure that there's no confusion about this. I've put forward 2 resolutions. One of those resolutions is to express to our desire, this community's desire, to have certain land removed from Lands Bill. That's what they are called. There had been a comment earlier in public comment about those specific bills that are in Congress. Those are listed in Resolution 7375. They are Senate Bill 567 and House Bill 1597. Those are very big bills. They will have an enormous impact on Southern Nevada. But within those bills, there is that piece of land out in El Dorado Valley that's over 7,000 acres. There's an additional piece of land that is north of Railroad Pass. And there is private land that is not, well, I should say, it's not federal land, which is also in that area. So I think it's important to realize that there are 3 different parcels of land that are being discussed. The resolutions that I put forward are to oppose the annexation of the land that is at the south of those 3 parcels, and which is by far the largest amount of land. I believe it's over 7,000 acres. That land is currently under management by the Bureau of Land Management. It is the entrance into Sloan Canyon. It has been often thought of as open space for conservation and recreation. That is what I believe that land should remain as. I also want to point out that we can continue to discuss this, but things have already moved very quickly. The City of Henderson has already proposed and passed an annexation plan. This bill has been around for, I would say, at least 2 years. The land that they are now proposing in that lower portion was never discussed as being subject to annexation. Everything that I had been told or seen or read had indicated that that was land that would remain conservation, and there was never a discussion that it was going to be annexed by the City of Henderson. I think it's imperative for this council to understand that that bill in Congress could move at any time, and once it does, if that area is still included, it will make it much more difficult to oppose that annexation of that land. So I understand there might be some indication or feeling that, well, we'll wait on this. The waiting time is pretty much over on this. Henderson has already acted on it, and Congress may act at any time. The bills have been in committee. They've already had a hearing. They could move at any time within Congress. So I would ask everybody to keep that in mind as we have the discussion about these. But if people think that, well, we can just wait on this forever, you may be waiting to a point where it becomes impossible to do anything about it. So with those two resolutions, again, they are two separate ones. One is opposing the annexation by the city of Henderson, and again, there are the two upper parcels, the one that is north of Railroad Pass, that apparently has some, that's also under Bureau of Reclamation Management, and I believe that there is a water tank, water reservoir, something that is in that area. I don't see that that's an issue. Then the middle portion, which is land that is in unincorporated Clark County, and much of it is, or all of it, is privately owned land. That's the way the law reads in the state of Nevada, that if those property owners have asked to be annexed into the city of Henderson, that is pretty much a provision of the law. Is that correct, Madam City Attorney?
Yes, I would say that's correct.
Thank you. Our city has had a master plan for a long period of time that calls for having a buffer between our city and any other growth. But I think we really need to concentrate on that lower southern parcel that's about 7,000 acres and what the current use of that land is. I was out there weekend before last. You know, people are out there enjoying it, riding ATVs. There are particular plant species in that area, particular wildlife in that area. It has been designated previously as a conservation area. I know that the city of Henderson has said that, well, we have no plans for it. Well, one of the requirements when I read the state law says that if you're going to annex something, you must have plans for it. And I don't believe it's something that we can leave to chance to say, well, we'll just wait for 4 or 5 years and see what might happen out there. The land is currently under management by the federal government, as 80% of Nevada is. I don't see that that would be in the interest of this city to have that land annexed. I think it should be left under management by the Bureau of Land Management as a conservation area. So there are a number of clauses within these resolutions. I think they get to that point that those reasons for maintaining this as a conservation area. And with that, I will then open it up for discussion. Anyone have any questions or comments? Councilmember Bridges?
Yes. First of all, I just wanted to explain, I asked to postpone this agenda item because this is a very serious discussion, which sends a message to our folks in Congress, and it also sends a message to Henderson. It carries a message of how we feel. Yet I get concerned when reading it in terms of our relationship with our neighbors. And I do support this. I just do support us, the importance of having a controlled growth ordinance, of being opposed to any development in that area. I would prefer not to see anything other than Railroad Pass all the way until I go over the hill. So I am opposed to any development in that area and wish to see nothing other than that. Whether I vote for this, I just wanted to make it clear that we do have an amicable relationship with our neighbors in Henderson. And, you know, we just had their attorney working for us. So while this is, I see the significance of this and the importance of it, and I think it is an important message, I personally just want to express that this is a long-term issue. This is something that, you know, may not affect us tomorrow or a year from now, but 5 years or 10 years if something were to happen to this land. So I did feel it was important to have a full council discussion on it. So I just wanted to explain my reasonings for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I do understand that this is being brought forward at this time. There have been several things that have occurred within the past month, primarily by the city of Henderson. They proposed the plan, they adopted the plan, and then they held a meeting at the beginning of this month to explain the plan, which seems a little odd as far as timing goes. But I think it's important for all of us to recognize this process has now gained a lot of momentum. It's gained a lot of speed. And as I say, this bill has been around for at least 2 years, probably longer than that in Congress. And there has been much discussion because if you look at the bill, it's impacting all of Southern Nevada, not even Clark County. It's reaching beyond Clark County. And there have been many discussions about the different pieces of land that are involved here. But they are now getting to the point where they are going to vote on this. So it would be great to say, well, you know, if we went back 2 years and started discussing this, we would have plenty of time. I believe where we're at now on the timeline is at the end of that timeline, not in the middle or the beginning of it. We're already seeing actions being taken. This is not something to create any type of problem between ourselves and Henderson. Certainly Henderson does help us a great deal. It's to say, you know what, we don't want to see this go forward. And when they presented their plan, they said, well, we really don't have any plans for this land. So I don't think it's that we're trying to interfere with something they're attempting to do. I think it's a matter of saying that we would like to see this land taken out. You know, they have the same opportunity. They can try later on if they so desire at another time, but this bill in Congress, as I say, it could move at any time. Anyone else? Councilmember Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. I will just start by saying that I certainly respect Councilmember Jorgensen's decision to prioritize her family tonight. It's a decision that I have had to make before. You know, however, you know, everything that we are discussing tonight is important. And of course, we would always like to have all of council present when making decisions, but we don't always have that opportunity, unfortunately, and tonight is one of those nights. This is very important. I don't think there is a single person in Boulder City who I've talked to who wants to see this go through. As has been mentioned, you know, at the moment that the lands bill is passed, should it be passed, that's when it becomes our problem. You know, it's not, you know, in 5 years when this development starts or anything. It's once that happens and, you know, the next steps of annexation, that's when it's a done deal already. Then it's just the waiting game. So I understand the concerns that this might sour some our relationships with Henderson. I don't think that's the case. I think all of us know, you know, I've gotten to meet a number of the different representatives in the city of Henderson. Our communities have different interests, and sometimes those interests are at contrast or competition with one another. I don't think that this one thing is going to you know, drive a wedge between us, even though we are trying to physically do that with our land space. I see no reason why us and the city of Henderson can't continue to work as good partners. I think the resolutions are pretty clear. I don't think there's nothing in there that I oppose to that I think is ambiguous as to what we are saying. We are saying that this is not desired by our community. There's no one in our community that I have spoken to or heard of or received anything that, no, this is good, this is somehow going to be good for Boulder City. The pretty unanimous the unanimous sentiment is that this is bad for Boulder City. This is not this is outside of how we would like to identify how we would like to see the El Dorado Valley used. And quite frankly, anything that is going to potentially allow greater infrastructure and more development puts all of Southern Nevada at risk, not just Boulder City. So I think it's pretty, I think it's laid out here very cleanly. It's important, I think, that we pass this tonight. Absolutely. I think waiting is irresponsible and not in the best interest of our community.
Thank you. Councilmember Fox?
Yeah, I have to agree with Claudia. I think it is very important to have the full council on this. And, I'm very much opposed to the annexation and Henderson building on our doorsteps. But, I think it could look, or it might look like we're going the wrong way about this. And I don't want to start off on the wrong foot. If things were to change, we need to work with Henderson hand in hand and make sure we have a seat at the table. That's all.
Again, I think this idea that we have to have a full council to make a decision like this, all of us are going to have times where we're going to be unable to participate. The other thing is, this isn't new. The Community Development Director, Michael Mays, had sent something out, it's been months ago, I don't recall how long ago, about what the annexation process is. As I say, this bill has been there in Congress. I do realize that we have a couple of newer members of the council who may not be up to speed on every one of those issues. But to approach this as a problem that, well, we need to give it a great deal more study. For one, all we're doing is expressing opposition to the annexation of that particular piece of land. We really have no other authority to do much of anything else on this. So it's not a question of, well, we're going to dive into the details of this, because there really are no details. There's a bill or two bills in Congress, one in the Senate, one in the House, that shows this piece of land that throughout the past 2 or 3 years has been shown as conservation area. And suddenly over the past 2 months, we have Henderson develop an annexation plan and include this land in that. I don't think that we're making some major decision here other than to say we prefer not to see that land be annexed. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Bridges?
Yeah, and I think, and this is the thing that keeps nagging on my mind, and I am interested in your perspective on that, is assuming this goes through, what effect does that have on our relationship with them? If they do pass the lands bill, if it does become annexed, in order to be able to sit at the table and say, okay, we hope you would accept our feedback in what it is that you want to do, or do you think that that's a moot point? Do you think that closes the door on further discussion with Henderson?
No, actually, I think it opens the door, because right now they have put forth a plan, they've put it to their city council, they have already voted on it, and then they said, oh, and if we'll have another meeting and explain it. They in their plan, they have said they have no plans for this. So I don't think it's a question of Boulder City stepping or trying to step on anything they're doing other than to say, we want this land to remain the way it is. They've already said they have no plans. So it's not as though they're saying, well, we have this huge development that we want to do, and that's why we want this land, and here's Boulder City trying to interfere in that. They've made it quite clear in their plan that they have no intention of changing the use of that land. And I think it's in the best interest of Boulder City then to go to our congressional delegation and say, you know what, we prefer this remain under the management of BLM and that it remain as conservation and open space. And again, if Henderson has many opportunities within this bill. This is not the only area that Henderson is looking at. It happens to be an area that they had designated as conservation land. But if you go the other way in Henderson down towards Jean, there is land within the disposal area that was designated for development that Henderson is going to have ample opportunity to develop. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
I'll just say that for the last 40 years, we have been the only community who has actually, walked the walk when it comes to sustainability, having controlled growth and reasonableness. It's not that I don't believe that Henderson has the best in their minds and intentions with this, but at the end of the day, we still remain the only community that actually has policies put in place to make sure that that is the case. So I think that this is very important that we move forward with this. This is what the community wants. What else are we here to do other than to give voice to the community?
I think part of that also is, Councilmember Adams, that, we had a discussion tonight of our capital improvement projects, and part of that is water conservation. It gets to be difficult to go to our residents and say, okay, the 16,000 of us need to really crack down and remove grass and do all these things when we see 8,000 acres get developed on the doorstep of our city. And I would also like to point out, the only way that Henderson can apply for this annexation is because portions of their city limits abut this land. Well, so does Boulder City. At the south end of this is the law enforcement training facility that Boulder City had provided the land for. To the east of it is also Boulder City land. So this is not something that it's like, well, it's really not going to impact Boulder City. It literally brings them right to our city limits. Any other questions or comments? Well, we will take these one at a time then. Resolution 7375 is a resolution opposing the expansion of land for disposal in the El Dorado Valley. This would be the bills that are in Congress. I will move for approval of Resolution 7375.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Second resolution, and this one is to express opposition to the actions of the City of Henderson with regard to that same parcel of land. That's Resolution 7376. I'll also move for approval of Resolution 7376.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We will move then to item number 13. City Council appointments. We have 3 different committees or commissions to appoint to. The first is the Parks and Recreation Committee. Madam City Clerk, did you want to explain this item?
Sure, but I'm going to turn this over to City Attorney Walker first.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I wanted to point out on this item, you have 3 City Council appointments, one being the Planning Commission. On the staff report, there are several individuals interested in serving on the Planning Commission, including Mr. Matuska, who currently serves on the Planning Commission, and his term expires on January 1st, 2022. The section Title 3, Chapter 1, Section 10 of our Boulder City Municipal Code does have term limits for the amount of service that any person appointed to a particular committee, board, or commission may serve, and that maximum amount of service is 12 years. Because this ordinance, which was a voter-passed initiative that was effective in November of 2010, any year of service following the effective date of this ordinance would count toward that 12-year maximum. Therefore, while Mr. Matuska is eligible for reappointment, his term would expire if reappointed by operation of law at 12 years of service. So he would not be able to be appointed for the full 4-year term.
Thank you.
The first item on number 13 is the Parks and Recreation Commission. There are 2 vacancies with terms that expire in January. These are also 4-year appointments. The Planning Commission has 1 term that will expire in January, and again, that's a 4-year term. And then we have the Utility Advisory Committee that has 1 vacancy with an unexpired term that ends 6/1/24. And there's applications attached for your review.
Thank you. I think it would be best if we take these one committee or commission at a time. We'll start with the Parks and Recreation Committee. There are 2 openings, is that correct, on Parks and Recreation?
That's correct.
Okay. I will begin by nominating then Stephen Robbins. I had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Robbins. He has an extensive background in projects involving pools, which appears to be something that we will be looking forward to here in the very near future. He has an extensive background in that. And I would also nominate Rose Hess as a second person. Any other names for the Parks and Recreation Committee? All in favor of those 2, please raise your hand. The next is the Planning Commission. Again, Mr. Matuskas has served a long period of time on that as the current chair of that committee. However, because of the law, he is going to be limited in the amount of time he can serve. I would still like to renominate Mr. Matuskas, and that will give us an opportunity as well to potentially look for some other candidates. I know he was the one that I had thought would be the best candidate for this position. Any other nominations for the Planning Commission? All those in favor of Mr. Matuskas? And the last is the Utility Advisory Committee. Again, I will nominate Lloyd Anderson. I did have an opportunity to speak with him also. He has an extensive background with NV Energy. He, in addition to that, or as part of that, he explained to me how he's also very familiar with the handling of water, filtration of water, preparation of water to be used in their steam turbines. Again, I think those are excellent skills that we can use on our Utility Advisory Committee, and I believe he has over 40 years of experience in that. Any other names for the Utility Advisory Committee? Councilmember Bridges?
Yes, I would like to include George Ree.
Any other names? We'll begin with Mr. Anderson then. All those in favor of Mr. Anderson, please raise your hand. All those in favor of Dr. Reed, please raise your hand. Okay, so that will be Mr. Anderson then for the Utility Advisory Committee. Thank you. Item number 14, City Manager Taylor Tedder.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. The item before you is the latest quarterly report of my paid vacation leave as stipulated in my employment agreement with the city. To date, I've used 75 hours of paid leave, and all of that was used to move my household here to Boulder City. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have and respectfully request that you receive the report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Well, it's not the best way to use your leave, but again, I appreciate the efficiency that you did have in making the move here. We know that Boulder City is not the easiest place to find a home on short notice. Thank you for that, and thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Item number 15 for possible action, Resolution 7377. This is a attempt to correct some of the language that was in a prior resolution regarding the request for proposal that had been received on Track 350, which is the land around Boulder Creek. I know this is my item, Madam City Attorney, but is there anything that you can add to that to make it a little clearer?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would just, to add, for purposes of further clarification, this resolution does not reconsider this item or put into question whether the RFP was awarded or whether the RFP would be awarded. The action approved of in Resolution 7368 would not change. This resolution simply removes the dollar amount from the original resolution.
Thank you. And that's my concern, that the wording of that resolution, we cannot do a sale of land until appraisals have been done. Those actions have not been taken. And just to clarify the language in that, to remove any possible misperception that constituted a contract of sale. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for bringing this up. It was a question that I attempted to ask to clarify that specific issue that is being addressed here. Perhaps I misunderstood the answer or I misstated my question, but I think this is good for us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I will move for approval then of Resolution 7377.
I'll second. Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Brings us to item 16, our final public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak during this period of time will have up to 5 minutes and may speak on any item. As always, we ask folks to be civil and concise. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the podium. And please state your name.
My name is Mary Ann Ray, and I live at 1408 Denver Street. I've lived there for 25 plus years. I attended the last meeting where I spoke, where the text amendment to allow funeral homes and mortuaries came up. I would like to speak on this. First of all, I want to personally thank the members who listened to all of the people who were against this and who voted to oppose it. What I want to tell you is when we started this process, and this is the second time we have gone through this, we went in this having no idea that the cards were stacked against us, that rules changed, the rules we thought were in place changed. First of all, we went to the Planning Commission. At the Planning Commission meeting, it was made very clear that amendment was not site-specific. It was about the R1 and the C1 residential commercial zone. It was not site-specific. I dare say if it was site-specific, some of the members of the Planning Commission may have voted differently. When we presented our case, we spent hours doing research. We did due diligence. We followed the rules that we were told in place. And then it came before the City Council. To tell you the truth, I still don't know what happened. All of a sudden, that amendment was gutted, and it became site-specific, and we're back to 1404 Colorado Street. And I had expected that this council would have turned that down and told Tyson Smith he needs to go back and come back when he has it site-specific. Then This was brought up to the council for you to discuss. At this point, we have no way to rebut anything. We have no way to put in any our question. One of the things, the support from this community against that was overwhelming. I asked the members who voted against it, how many people have to voice their opinion for you to listen to them? I got very upset when somebody brought up Facebook. Facebook, when we get up here to speak or people write to the city clerk, they have to put their names down. The people on Facebook, it was a number. First of all, I don't use Facebook. None of my friends use Facebook, and I dare say some of the members on the city council do not use Facebook. So to use Facebook as a means of saying people want things one way or the other, I think it is invalid and should not be taken into account. Also, I want to take umbrage about a couple things. I don't need a lecture on death. I'm probably older than anyone here, probably know more about death than any of you do. I don't want to hear comments about veterans. My husband served 21 years in the United States Air Force. This was the first community we ever moved to that we wanted to move to. When we moved here, it was for quality of life. It was not because the town had a mortuary. And the one I found most ridiculous, the most ludicrous, that building on 1404 Denver Street could ever be used as a supermarket. Are you kidding me? It is a two-story building. This town, ever since they lost Vaughn's, and then Hagen's went under because this town cannot support a supermarket like that. We have wanted another supermarket. Nobody comes in here because they do market surveys. Market surveys show this town of 15,000 people cannot support another supermarket. So for someone to suggest that it would come in off the beaten track on Colorado Street is absolutely ridiculous. For us, this fight is not over because this fight is about our quality of life, which some of the members on this council apparently chose to ignore. I have a lot of problems when we come up and try to fight something. First of all, I have railed and railed against text amendments. Text amendments lack transparency. They don't let people know what is going on. I have done research on that. Most cities don't like text amendments because of that. Why does this city use so many text amendments? It speaks of the cloak of secrecy. One of the other problems we had, as I said, so many people went out of their way to speak up. I am not a public speaker, not a public person at all. Neither is Nancy Deneen, neither are all those people who wrote emails and expressed their opinion. We took the time, we took the effort to appear and state our concerns, our wanting a quality of life. We feel that we were not only dismissed, we feel that we were disrespected. The bottom line in this town, and I hate to say that, this is not the best term in the whole world, but in this town, when things are voted on, it seems usually it depends on whose ox is being gored. And if it's not yours, that's fine. If it's somebody else's, okay, they can have their ox gored, but you don't want things in your yard, but it's okay in other person's yards. My friend Nancy Deneen had said something to me, and she said, "Marianne, you know, we have become the bad guys, the troublemakers." And I kind of dismissed that. And I said, well, I don't think so. And then I started thinking about it. We never objected to a mortuary in this town. We never attacked Tyson Smith. Tyson Smith is the one who wants to put a business where it does not belong, where people do not want it. Interestingly enough, a lot of the research I did was from funeral directors and mortuary owners. And they know that the nature of their business always raises questions. So they try not to ever go where people do not want them.
Ms. Raig?
Yes.
You've reached the 5 minutes. If you could conclude your
I
remarks.
will. This is Boulder City, Nevada. It is known for Art in the Park, Coffee Cup. It's a town that built Boulder City. It's known for its quaint, unique character. It is so ludicrous to think we now might have a mortuary that is 2 stories, 24,000 plus square feet, which would make it the largest mortuary in all of Clark County and probably all of the state of Nevada. 15,000 people. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in public comment? Please come forward, state your name.
Hello, I'm Nancy Deneen. Can you hear me? So I think that Marianne and I have been painted to look like the bad guys in this whole mortuary, funeral home, Tyson Smith Amendment. So as a farmer for 14 years, I couldn't help but think about the critters at the farm that would guard and protect their homes. Take the bees, for instance. I had 2 beehives on my farm. Mostly the bees were docile and didn't bother anyone, unless you disturbed their home. I don't know about you, but I've been dive bombed a few times by hummingbirds protecting their nests. So as I'm thinking about the birds and the bees and how the majority of the city council voted, and by the way, my emotional outburst at the end of the last city council meeting warrants an apology, and I truly am sorry. That being said, I started to look at the great opportunity that this city council gave me. Back to the birds and the bees. What this town needs to go along with the largest mortuary/funeral home in all of Clark County is a supersized sex store/factory. Now, hear me out. I heard you say, as sure as you're born, you're gonna die. True. But what happens in the middle, right? A little sex. It's not like it's really talked about, but let's face it, we've all got kids. And just like talking about dead bodies, sex toys aren't a hot topic around the dinner table, but they sell really well. Any pro-business council member should be in favor of that. And no, I would never put it in your backyard. Never. Just a few people around the building may not want it in their backyards, but just a few, no worries. So I'll pay that fee, I'll get a text amendment, I'll take it before the planning commission, Susan can help me, and I'll ask for it to be in like R1, C1 zones. I mean, you can always take out the R1 at some point, right? And it wouldn't be site specific. And even though the Planning Commission may vote it down, I'll push it forward for you, our city council, to decide. Don't worry if half of Boulder City says no. We can just tell them that having a sex factory, toy factory store in their neighborhood is so much better than a grocery store. And even if the factory part of the business works 24/7, the business hours won't interrupt anyone having a cup of coffee on their deck or a glass of wine in the evening. And the people at that shop, my store, would be happy. It'd be a fun experience, unlike a mortuary. Busloads of tourists can even stop in. Imagine the revenue. There won't be anything like it in all of Clark County. Nevada is known for its brothels, so it's not really, it's a perfect fit, wouldn't you think? Right there, next to that funeral home / mortuary. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers that would like to speak in public comment? All right, we will go to the phone. Anyone wishing to call in during the final public comment period, the phone number is 702-589-9629. This is the final public comment period for City Council meeting. Anyone wishing to call, the number is 702-589-9629. Madam City Clerk, were there any emailed comments received?
No comments received.
Thank you. Hearing no others for public comment, then we will close the final public comment period and move to our last item, council reports. Councilmember Bridges.
Yeah, thank you. Two. One is, it's come to my attention that there might be elderly members of our community who do not yet know about the importance of receiving the COVID boosters. I did receive a call from a resident the other day who spoke to someone elderly at the senior center who was not even familiar with the fact that he should be getting a booster, and he lives alone. If you know someone who might be in that situation, please contact the fire department or the Southern Nevada Health District, and that way we can make sure that nobody falls between the cracks. Also, as usual, I talk about the emergency aid and the fact there's funding available for those residents who are facing an emergency in terms of paying their rent or utilities or in need of the access to a food pantry. And that's it. Thank you very much, and everybody have a lovely, lovely holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fox.
Yep, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, some members of the Southern Nevada Health District came down here, Richard Hazeltine and some of his staff, and met with myself and Ms. LaPlante to discuss different opportunities to provide outreach and information about the services that are available at the Southern Nevada Health District. Obviously, over the last year and a half, there has been a lot of focus on COVID. It's important, all that work that has gone into that, but we also need to remember that there are a number of other things still that also affect our community, predominantly, stroke, coronary disease, things of that nature. And there are services at Southern Nevada Health District that are available to our residents. So they will be, we provided them with the information, and hopefully before too long, it's something that we can help to get out there into the community about some of the other things that Health District does have to offer. On Monday, we have a special meeting with the Southern Nevada Water Authority to discuss the resource plan. I don't think I have to remind anybody just how bad things are, but I think things are a little worse than we projected after this last year. So we are needing to look at that resource plan, and like everyone else, I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. It's been a rough ride, but I always say take what you love into the next year, and we'll I think we'll all have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I want to remind everyone that this is the last council meeting that will begin at 7 p.m. We will begin on our January 11th meeting to meet at 5 p.m. I know that that's something that staff is probably going to appreciate, as well as the council members. And again, we have a number of opportunities now, the live streaming, the call-ins for public comment. I think this is going to be a good change for the council to move to that earlier time. I was at a monthly meeting for Las Vegas and Convention and Visitors Authority this morning. Very good news as far as room tax revenues are well ahead of the projected. And of course, the projected goes back to last year when things were not looking good at all. CES will be coming in January. They were not here this past year. The other big show just completed about a month ago, which is the SEMA car show. That was attended, I believe, by 131,000. They're expecting more for CES. It's great to see Las Vegas getting back. That certainly benefits our community. What's going to get us there is getting over this pandemic as quickly as possible. We've heard from other council members. Please, if you have a condition or you have a particular concern, talk to a healthcare professional. In addition to the resources that Councilmember Bridges mentioned, the pharmacies can make an appointment for you, the hospital can make an appointment for you. They have pharmacists there that can speak with you about any concerns you have. We need to get beyond this as quickly as we can. And with that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and we're adjourned. Thank you.